This is AYVN Sunday, and we do solicit your views. As always, do share them with us. Move over to our AYV News Facebook page, drop your comments, drop your questions. We would find time to go through some of them in the course of the conversation. Tonight, we are looking at the ongoing debate of the introduction of the district block system, proportional representation system in the country. And as always, we'll bring people who are in touch with the issues. I have with me the Executive Secretary from the Electoral Commission, Sierra Leone, William Abdul Davis. William, good evening and welcome to AYVN Sunday.
Good evening and thank you for having me.
Right, I have Honorable Abdul Kargbo from the Opposition All People's Congress Party. Honorable, good evening and welcome to.
Good evening, Samuel. Good evening, listeners. Good evening, viewers.
From the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party, I have Honorable Indolo Gavao. Good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Samuel. Good evening, viewers.
From the National Elections Watch, I have the National Coordinator, Reverend James Lahai. Reverend, good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Samuel. Good evening, viewers.
All right, I'm going to start off with new, for obvious reasons. The National Elections Watch has written an open letter to the Chief Electoral Commissioner demanding a public explanation and on why you thought the Commission has abandoned the 2022 boundary delimitation exercise for the purposes of the 2023 general elections, and come out with clear explanation on the ongoing crisis around the introduction of the proportional representation and what is happening with within the electoral calendar. So what are your concerns? What do you really need clarifications on as an organization, Reverend?
Thank you very much, Samuel. You see, like you have just said, the debate is hot everywhere in every circle about the introduction of the PR system for the 2023 elections. We are also very concerned because, putting the legal arguments aside, elections are meant to be, the environment has to be a level playing field. That is like saying everybody who is going to take part in the contest must be at par in terms of information about the process, in terms of decision relating to the process. The Electoral Commission Sierra Leone was doing the boundary delimitation according to a press release that is sent out. They had gone far in the process of the boundary delimitation. And then suddenly, the Chief Electoral Commissioner came out to say, we are now going to adopt the proportional representation district block system. And the following day, a press release and a press conference was called, where a press statement was read.
How far had the Commission gone with the boundary delimitation exercise? Because what was to the public was that a technical committee was being set up to look into the boundary delimitation. But you are very much closer to the Commission than us.
According to the Chief Electoral Commissioner himself, they had done most of the preliminary activities involved in the boundary delimitation beyond the setting up of the committee.
Right.
Even doing field data capture, you know. So, but it was surprising that at that stage they had to abandon the boundary delimitation, and according to the Chief Electoral Commissioner, on the advice from the Commission, so the President had to give directives for the PR system to be adopted.
Are you saying the Commission actually made the advice, or the Commission advised the President to go with the proportional representation?
When the Chief Electoral Commissioner was talking to the public in the press conference where the press statement on the directive was read,
yes,
he did say that he had consultations with the presidency and that based on the challenges that they are facing, they advised the president for the PR system, and therefore it was on the advice of the commission that the president had to give the directive for the elections to be done on the PR system. And our problem here is, since the time the date for elections was declared, all players have been preparing themselves on the basis of the first past the post. And then now all of a sudden, if the commission had faced challenges, just so that they maintain a level playing field for everybody, they would have brought this back to all players, including other democratic institutions, and get discussions around these issues, so that the decision would have been consultative. One thing we should note, the president also is a candidate for the 2023 elections. And so if you are taking decisions in this manner, it comes as a surprise to the rest of the players, whilst the other player is in full knowledge of what is happening. That is not a playing level field. And that can lead to suspicion, and that can lead to lack of trust in whatever decisions you might be taking, whether they are good or they are not. But the process must ensure that every player is part of that process. So that in itself is a big challenge for our electoral system. And we believe the Electoral Commission should stand out strong and maintain the independence that is given to them in the Constitution, and ensure that the processes that they are managing it in a manner that does not put one person in the advantage over the other.
As it is right now, is that how it looks like?
It is, even by the way the directives were given, that tells you that some advantage was given to one candidate as against other candidates intending to contest in the same elections.
How so?
Yes, it is a constitutional right of the president to give directives.
Okay.
But arriving at the directive, knowing this is a contest, and this contest talks about transparency, it talks about accountability, it talks about a level playing field. So everybody who will be contesting must be seen to be part of the decision making of the process, rather than springing surprises, throwing other players into confusion, because very critical decisions are just thrown like that.
Okay. I'm going to allow Abdul to just first off respond to Reverend's submission, in the sense that you actually approached the president, told Mr. President, according to Reverend, but Mr. President, we have challenges, and I think it is best that you direct us to go with the district block proportional representation system instead of the first past the post, which you have the power, Mr. President. So it is actually, the advice is coming from the commission, and the commission is actually bidding the game or the ploy of the ruling SLPP. If what Reverend is saying is anything to go by.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I will
Go ahead. Candidates.
Undue advantage does not fit into this particular context. In terms of the issue that the ECSL Electoral Commission advised the president, it's part of the electoral process, it's part of the legal framework. I can say the situation where we find ourselves as a country is kind of circumstantial. We made it clear in the strategic plan of the Electoral Commission that we intended to do boundary delimitation for constituencies and wards in 2024 after the maximum timeline of 7 years elapsed. So that was the plan, but we stated in our strategic plan at the time we issued or published it that there were externalities. One of the externalities we articulated in our plan was that there is a decision to do a midterm census since 2020. And if a midterm census is done, then there will be a need for the Commission to revisit its timeline or calendar of events, possibly not waiting until 2024 to do boundary delimitation, but possibly again reviewing the boundaries when the minimum threshold of 5 years elapses. So that is kind of a circumstantial context. The midterm census was done, and the results came out. First of all, the midterm census draft population figures, they came out, it was published, they were published on the 31st of May, 2022. So at that point in time, I mean, it was May then, end of May, we were of the opinion that the registration will commence in September. So we had June, July, August as a period for us to consider reviewing the existing boundaries for constituencies and wards. So we set up a technical boundary delimitation committee to start the preliminary review issues. The preliminary review issues, they include considering the population figures given by Statistics Sierra Leone, and also consulting officially the House of Parliament.
What data were you going with? The provisional data announced by Statistics?
Yes, at that point, it was the because we had to study, we had to analyze the provisional data. So we started the work.
But you knew definitely the data would change because it's provisional, it was not the final.
Yes, but we did not want to wait until the final, but we expected that the final output or the final population census would have come out kind of earlier. But the final census report, I think it came out at the beginning of August, and that was just about a month. But by that time, we had done the preliminary or the technical assessments. We received official correspondence from the House of Parliament indicating that the number of seats for the next parliament will remain at 132. So these are like the two parameters we needed to calculate the population quota. We calculated the population quota. It ended up being 57,000 plus. For the
Per constituency?
Per constituency.
What was the previous?
It was about 53,000. So now it has moved up to 57,000. So it means if we are to continue with the boundary delimitation process, we have to delimit constituencies using this population quota of 57,000 inhabitants per constituency. But at the time the census figures were finalized, it was now kind of too close to the registration. And the ideal system for the electoral process is, first of all, you have to know your wards and your constituencies, your electoral boundaries. You first of all delimit the electoral areas, and then you register voters in the electoral areas, whether it's constituencies or wards you have delimited. And then, of course, you organize nominations or registration of candidates.
That's the ideal environment.
Yeah, that's the ideal environment. So that's why I started saying that we find the challenge is kind of circumstantial. So it's not the making of the Electoral Commission per se, but as a commission, we are reacting to the issue. Why we are reacting is, first of all, we have the mandate under Section 38 that we should be reviewing boundaries for constituencies in intervals of not less than 5 years and not more than 7 years. It's a mandate. And the minimum interval of 5 years elapsed in February 2022. And in reviewing constituency boundaries, Section 38 is saying that we must use the latest census figures. And now the latest census figures, they've come out sometime in August of 2022. We have to react to that. So at this point in time, technically, we have done the calculation for the population quota. We have also done the seats allocation computation. The seats allocation is, it includes identifying the number of seats that should be allocated to each district. It's simple, the way to do it. With the population quota, you take each district population and you divide it by the 57,000, which is the average inhabitants that should be in a constituency. So the higher the district population, you divide with the same 57,000, the more seats a particular district will have, vice versa. Lower district population, a lower number of seats. So we even have the analysis. And
forgive me, I'm just curious. As you talk about the 2018 elections, it was 53,000 per constituency.
Yes.
There are members of parliament whose constituencies did not meet that threshold. From the figures given, there are constituencies that sent members of parliament to the House with 22,000, even below that. So how did we get to that allocation in the 2018 elections?
Of course, it's the same formula for the 2017 boundary delimitation. We used the 2015 census figure. We divided the total population of Sierra Leone. It was 7,092,000 divided by 132 seats. We had 53,000. The point we need to note is that the 53,000 or the population quota is the number of inhabitants on average that should be in a constituency. When it's not the number of voters, it's the number of inhabitants. So it includes everybody, including foreigners. So mind you, I mean, with the census, they count everybody, the minors and the adults. So that 53,000, let us don't take it to be for voters. Right. You know, when it comes to registration, you can have your population quota, but in terms of the turnout for voter registration, if that particular area, the voter registration turnout is lower, it's quite possible that you may have a lower turnout for the polls. Right. And further down the line, you can even have, I mean, a reasonably sized up registration turnout for the constituency. But when it comes down to the polls, I mean, turnout again at polling may also be lower. Not everybody that was registered turned out to vote. So there are other factors we have to take into consideration when drilling down from the 53,000 to the actual voter turnout in a constituency.
The 5 years minimum and 7 years maximum for the review of constituencies, does that tie to the life of Parliament, in the sense that when does Parliament dissolve?
Yeah, it is related. What the law is saying that from the time the boundaries are approved by Parliament, Section 38, subsection 5, it is saying when the Electoral Commission reviews boundaries for constituencies, and at the end of the day, we alter the boundaries, we come up with new boundaries, then any alteration should be approved by Parliament. After it's approved by Parliament, it means that, but it subsequently states that the approval of the new boundaries will take effect at the dissolution of the existing Parliament. So, for instance, for the last cycle, the boundaries, these boundaries we are using now, they were demarcated in 2017. But Parliament was dissolved, I think it was on the 8th or the 7th of December. Yes, it was actually, they were actually endorsed in August by Parliament 2022. So, but subsection 5 of 38 is saying, even after approval, they take effect at the dissolution of the existing Parliament. So they're actually meant for the new Parliament. They are meant for two things. One, to conduct the upcoming election. For instance, the elections we conducted in 2018. And secondly, they are to serve the tenure. These boundaries are to serve the tenure. So what we are trying to say is that these boundaries, they are relevant to the tenure of the existing parliament, because the tenure of the existing parliament is from 2018 to 2023. And the maximum life of these boundaries, they span from 2017 to 2024. So they are meant for the current parliament. But
yes,
as I started saying, the whole issue is circumstantial. If there had been no midterm census, it means that there will have been no need for the Electoral Commission to review the boundaries, because the population quota will have remained the same. The latest available census data will have still been 2015. But because of the midterm census, subsection 3 of section 38 is saying that as best as possible, when you are delimiting your constituency boundaries, they should reflect the population quota. So that's the issue we have now.
So as it stands, the current boundaries, the current constituencies, they would not take any member of parliament to the 6th parliament, correct?
Yes, that's the position we, after the preliminary boundary delimitation review, that's the conclusion we've reached. Yes, to say that since these current boundaries, they were demarcated on the basis of using 53,000 as the population quota. And now we have a new official census data that is saying that our population quota should now be 57,000. Subsection, it has kind of, it is not compliant with subsection 3 of section 38, so which is saying that as nearly as possible, the number of inhabitants in a constituency should be equal to the population quota, which is now 57,000. So coming back to the issue, section 38A, the condition under which it is directing that the president may direct that we use the PR system is only referring to subsection 3 of section 38. It is saying that after a date has been appointed for the election of parliament and constituencies have not been established in accordance with subsection 3 of section 38.
So just quickly, with that citation, constituencies have not been established for the purposes of the 2023 general elections. Is that what we're saying? In
accordance with subsection 3 of section 38.
Right. So interesting. Let me, Honorable Abdul Kargbo, let me hear your submission. So NEC is saying for the purpose, I mean, if we're to go today to vote for our members of parliament with the current data, the 2021 midterm population and housing census data, and boundaries are not there. We've not been able to delimit boundaries. So I mean, your constituency, for example, that you're now representing your people, has not been established to take you back to the 6th parliament if we are to go to the polls now. So in essence, we're now in for the district's block proportional representation system.
Firstly, let me make this clear. It is not compulsory for boundaries to be altered before every elections. There is no law that makes it compulsory. Let me read for you subsection 4 of 38.
Go ahead.
It says, the Electoral Commission shall review the division of Sierra Leone into constituencies at interval of not less than 5 years and not more than 7 years. Shall precede in the review shows that the review is mandatory. The review is compulsory. Census, no census, you should review. Yeah? But continue, it says, and may alter constituencies in accordance with the provision of this section to such extent as it may consider desirable in the light of the review.
May, which is discretionary.
It's discretionary, it's conditional. Yeah?
And the commission uses its discretion to do that now.
I'm coming to that. Firstly, in fact, before the advent of the ITGC, I was representing Parliament at the Policy Circle and Strategic Planning of NEC. And Reverend was there also. I could remember in one of our meetings, NEC clearly consulted with political parties as to whether they should bring the delimitation in 2022 or it should remain in 2024, because part of their plan was to do delimitation 2024. And on that same plan, there was midterm census for 2021. So the midterm census was there for 2021, and delimitation was meant to be 2024. In fact, almost all the political parties that were present, civil society that were present, including Reverend, agreed that delimitation should be done in 2024. Because NEC knew there were lots of activities preceding the elections, and they would not have the ample opportunity, the ample time to do delimitation prior to elections. It was there and then SLPP said they were not going to sign the document, and that they needed delimitation before elections. That was when NEC told us that if there is a change in the population after the midterm census, instead of 2024, they will bring the midterm census to 2022, because SLPP opposed to signing the document we agreed on. So changing the limitation from 2024 to 2022 is not an idea of NEC, it's the idea of SLPP. Yes, because I was part of the meeting. Reverend was there. Reverend said it equivocally that the limitation should be 2024. But SLPP said they were not going to sign the document, and that they needed the limitation before the elections. That was when NEC began to say, well, if there is a significant change in the population, we will bring it in 2022 instead of 2024. Even though they had earlier stated that because of their busy schedule, they would not be able to do delimitation 2022. They had to circumvent that to please SLPP.
So,
but that
so Abdul just submitted, he just submitted that even in the very plan, it is clearly stated that there are externalities that would influence the calendar.
The externality is what I have shown you. It's what I have told you.
So you're saying it was premeditated?
It was as a result of request made by SLPP in that meeting. They did not sign the document. All of us were there. We consensuously agreed that the limitation was to be done 2024 as stated by NEC, as suggested by NEC. Nobody coerced NEC to put 2024 for delimitation. But it was after SLPP vehemently opposed to the limitation for 2024, that was when NEC said they will bring the limitation 2020. But please, Samuel, just give me small time so that I go through the things I have there. Firstly, let me make it very clear that there is no law that says because you have done census, you should cancel all the data that the previous census that were used, that all the data of the previous census.
Even when there are significant changes in the data?
There is no law. I want them to show me that law. The law that says once you have done census, that every data that is used in the previous census must be cancelled. I will tell you why. Now, let me take you to subsection 5. Yeah? Let me take you to subsection 5 of section 38.
Right.
It says, and I read, where the boundaries of any constituencies are altered in accordance with the provision of this section, that alteration shall come into effect upon the next resolution of Parliament after the alteration has been approved by Parliament. You know what they are saying? If you have done your census and you've altered the boundaries, you should not touch the existing boundaries because they are legal until the dissolution of Parliament. Those boundaries which you have done should wait. They should wait for the legal one to expire. That is for Parliament to dissolve.
And when is that in December?
I will tell you when Parliament will dissolve. Let us go back to subsection 1 of section 85. It clearly shows when Parliament will dissolve. It says, Parliament shall stand dissolved at the expiration of a period of 5 years commencing from the date it first sitting after a general election. This parliament first sat in April 2018. And we are dissolving in April 2023. So until parliament dissolves, those data are still accurate, they are still in use, they are still effective. Whatever alteration that they may want to do should wait for these legitimate constituencies to expire. And let me tell you, even when parliament dissolves, the life of the constituency may be longer than the life of parliament. I will show you why.
How?
Yes. Let's go again to 38. To 38. 4. It says the Electoral Commissioner shall review the division of Sierra Leone into constituencies at the interval of not less than 5 years and not more than 7 years. So it means the life of a constituency can be up to 7 years. And listen what he says. Even more than 7 years, the life of a constituency can exist. And I will show you again why. It says, and may alter the constituency in accordance with the provision of this section to such the extent as it may be desirable in the light of the review. It says even after the 7 years, it is not compulsory to alter the constituency. So the life of this constituency may even exceed 7 years because it's made, it's discretionary. You can decide. That is what happened in 2007 and 2012. When delimitation was done in 2007, the data were used for 2012 elections because it was not even 7 years yet, or even after 7 years. They looked at the review and said it was not necessary.
Was there any new data in terms of census?
Now let me tell you. That again is what I am saying. Let me make this point clear.
Go ahead.
It is not compulsory to do delimitation immediately after census or after every census. It is not compulsory. What the law is saying, if you choose, the circumstances arise for you to alter, you should refer to the recent census results. If the circumstances arise...
And they are saying the circumstances in this context, the circumstances have not arisen?
They have not done any delimitation. Circumstances have not arisen for them to do limitation because they had earlier known that because of the tight schedule, that they would not, let me tell you.
So just quickly.
Let me just make this point before I lose contact.
Go ahead.
Now, NEC knew that midterm census were to be done in 2021.
Right.
Yeah. But in their initial strategic plan, they said delimitation was for 2024. Because they knew that even when census was to be done in 2021, these constituencies will be valid in 2024.
But I mean, in that same vein, did NEC not make it clear that in case of externalities, there will be change that would affect the calendar?
Again, let me make this point clear again. The only thing that will alter these constituencies is after the dissolution of parliament. Nothing else will render them null and void. No law in this world.
So do you think, as it stands, with the 2021 population and housing data, if we're to go with what Abdul just submitted, 57,000 per constituency on average, and the figure that took you to parliament, I think was 53,000 per calculation. Do you think that the existing constituencies would then take Honorable Abdul Kargbo back to the 6th parliament?
I will explain to you.
Go ahead, please.
Go ahead. You know, it is possible that the existing constituencies may not take me to the next parliament. But the constituencies that will take me to the next parliament will only be valid after the dissolution of this parliament. So they will not interfere with the current constituencies. The current constituencies are valid till the end of the life of this parliament. Nobody should touch them, nobody should cancel them, as NEC is proposing to annul them. No, let me also make one point.
Go ahead quickly.
You know, and let me make this very clear. NEC of itself, NEC knew the circumstances, you know, that surrounds delimitation, and I want them to show me the law that render the current constituencies null and void. There is no law that render them null and. I have read subsection 1 of Section 85 that shows the life of our parliament, that you begin to count from the day we first sat in parliament, you know, to 5 years. And we first sat in this parliament in
April, you mentioned.
April 2018. Yeah? So the life of the parliament should not be interrupted by any form of census or any form of, even if you have done your census, even if they have gone, even if they have done
The life of this parliament, has it been touched?
according to what they are proposing.
No,
they are
because
saying,
what Abdul just submitted,
yes,
that the current constituency and the current parliament hasn't got anything to do with the data.
he said,
And, yes.
he said, and next said, the current constituencies are null and void because there has been a census. The Chief Electoral Commission has again said that in the press release that I was present. Yeah, he said the current constituencies are null and void because there had been census and because there is variation in the census result now and the census result that brought about this constitution. Let me tell you, for any time you do census, you don't expect to get the same results.
So the nullification,
And when they did
just quickly,
Kargbo-
Honorable, just quickly for clarification, the submission of the Chief Electoral Commissioner was just saying the nullification of the district. Was it for this 5th Parliament or the 6th Parliament?
That
That's
is
the
what they are
2020
saying. Let me tell you, when you go to the amendment 38A, the only way they can revert to PR is the non-existence of constituencies when constituencies have not been established. So the way they want the public to believe that constituencies are not established is when they render these constituencies null and void, contingent on the census result they have, which is not correct. You cannot just do census and render all constituencies null and void. You have to wait for the expiration of the term of the parliament. You have to wait for the 7 years, or if you cannot alter them, you have to allow them to be, if you cannot alter them.
Okay.
And let me tell you, for any census, yeah, for any census, a census that was conducted in 2004, you know, was another census was conducted in 2015. And so the census that was conducted in 2004, by the time the 2015 census was conducted, there were still constituencies. And even after the conduct of the 2015 census, they did not automatically change the constituencies. They were still valid until that parliament dissolved.
But for the purposes of the 5th Parliament, boundaries were delimited. When
Yes.
after the census in 2015,
Yes.
for the purposes of the 2018.
Yes, but those boundaries came into effect after the dissolution of the 4th Parliament. And let me tell you, you see, ECSL is also counting the lifespan of these boundaries from when they were delimited, you know, and when they were approved in Parliament.
Okay.
You know, let me make this clear.
Quickly, I have to bring it
does
on
not
the
necessarily mean that because Parliament has approved the boundaries, they have come into effect automatically. No. Yeah? Parliament can approve a law, and that law would not automatically come into effect.
I think you're in tune with the ECSL, because Abdul mentioned that earlier.
No, they are saying, because boundaries were delimited in February of 2017, so these boundaries have now expired because we have passed February 2022, which is not correct.
All right.
It is not correct.
Okay.
Because the constituencies that were created came into effect in December 2017. You cannot count the life of somebody who was not in existence. So you begin to count from when it came into existence. That was in December. So even for the review, we have not 5 years yet into the review. Because this constituency should have existed for 5 years before they do the review.
Okay. Let me bring in
5 years
Honorable Indolo Gavao. You've listened to the submissions. First off, the accusation being traded by Honorable Abdul Kargbo is that you are using the commission to carry on with your ploy, with your the goal you have to stay in power as a political party is what you are trying to push the commission to bid, and that is for them. It's not welcomed, because there were agreements, one of which was to do the review in 2024 and not in 2022. And the issue of externalities came in when the SLPP opposed to boundary delimitation in 2024.
Thank you, Samuel. The Secretary General of the All People's Party is trying very hard to cast aspersion on a credible institution, which is the Sierra Leone People's Party, and at the same time fighting to erode the the hard-earned reputation of people in the commission. I don't hold brief for them. I will say, he said the Sierra Leone People's Party, which we agreed on, but the Sierra Leone People's Party did not sign. Signature is evidence of agreement. That is to tell you, if the Sierra Leone People's Party did not sign, they did not agree. But back to the issues, Samuel. I'll ask the public few questions. Was the midterm census provided for in the Constitution? I will answer it in the affirmative. Yes, it was provided for. Was the midterm census done, carried on? Yes. Is the result of the midterm census out? Yes, it is out. Is it in public domain? Yes, it is in public domain. And what does the Constitution say? All of these things that my brother, the Secretary General, is trying to confuse, it's really very simple. Unless if he wants, or the All People's Congress wants to prevent Sierra Leoneans from being represented, that is when they will say, let us go back to the old constituencies when census result has shown tremendous increase in our population. Constituencies must reflect the population quota of a nation. So going back to the old constitution will mean we are disenfranchising those people who had been counted in this population, whose number has added to the 53,000 already existing number then in 2015.
But Honorable Kargbo submitted that it's not a must.
Well, that's what I am saying. As long as census has been done, it becomes very apparent, or it becomes very fair for constituencies to be delimited, just so that the increased population is not disenfranchised. I mean, it's as simple as that. And in delimiting constituencies, what do you go by? You go by the latest data, the latest census data. And NEC has told us that the latest census data is the midterm census. This constitution tells us that if there is no census, you go by the available information in the hands of NEC. But there is census, and NEC was in the process of delimiting constituencies using that latest data, which is census. And the Chief Electoral Commissioner has come to tell us that they cannot go ahead with the delimitation of constituencies, citing one particular instance to say the August 10 insurrection prevented them exponentially in proceeding with their job. The ECSL panelist has told us that, I mean, he has not even mentioned the insurrection, but he has told us that as a result of the calendar, they cannot complete the job. And this hue and cry about proportional representation, Reverend himself has said, it is constitutional. To say when the president, anytime the president wants to perform his function in Sierra Leone, he must call all political parties to say, oh, political parties, I want to take Honorable Gavao from Parliament and send him to Saudi Arabia as an ambassador. What do you say? I mean, we are trying to usurp the functions of the president given to him under this constitution. If you read section 38A, which panelists are not making beer to the public, I'll read it verbatim. It says, where under any law for the time being in force, a date of general elections for members of parliament has been appointed, but constituencies have not been established in accordance with section 3 of section 38, which he quoted, for the purposes of such elections. So when you use the word, underline the word such election, the such is referring, the appointment of an electoral date is referring to the 2023 elections. The reference to such election is referring to the 2023 elections. And that if constituencies are not established for that election, the president, in consultation with the Electoral Commission, shall direct. It is his constitutional mandate, for heaven's sake, to direct that the next election, which is that such election, be conducted by district block system.
So the argument Honorable Abdul Kargbo has put forward is that whether or not this law provides for the establishment of new boundaries or so, he is saying the Electoral Commission can still go on with the existing constituencies, the constituencies that took you to the 5th Parliament. Those constituencies can also take people.
That's what I am saying. Unless the Secretary General of the All People's Congress wants to disenfranchise, okay, the 4,000 inhabitants per constituency, which shows an increase in the constituency population. The man from NEC has told us the figure for the 2015 or 2017 boundary delimitation was 53,000 people. And the figure under this midterm census, the quota is 57. And if democracy says government of the people, by the people, and for the people, meaning everybody should participate in the governance of the state, in the process of voting, and be voted for. If we go by that old data, 4,000 people per constituency are going to be disenfranchised. The other disadvantage is there is a likelihood that constituency 003 has shown a tremendous decrease in the population, and constituency 004 has shown a tremendous increase in the population. And as a result of that, NEC has the mandate to sit down again, synchronize those those figures, and see whether constituency 003 can be extended and be renamed to another constituency 1 or constituency 4 or constituency 8, as the case may be, just so that the increase shown in the figure, those people are not disenfranchised.
As you talk about population increase and decrease in the constituencies, I know for a fact you, the SLPP members of parliament, have submitted that, wait a minute, in the 2018 elections, the APC, for example, just got 1% more than the SLPP parliament, but they have 20 seats more than us, the SLPP. How can just a single percentage, gives a whole political party 20 seats more over another political party? Is this a way to just say, wait a minute, let's see if we can go to the field, score more goals, and equalize?
Well, one thing that I have always said, I'm a proponent of the proportional representation system. And for me, the proportional representation system is a system that actually gives the actual figure or support of any political party. Wherein, say, if your support base nationally is 60%, by proportional representation, that 60% is reflective of the votes that you get. 60% of the valid votes are cast in your favor. The seats are distributed in that line. And the same example you gave also speaks volume for the C4C and the NGC number of seats in parliament. Honestly, if it were under proportional representation, NGC would have had more seats than C4C, because if you look at their total number of votes, the total number of votes that NGC got nationally, it far outweighed that the C4C got. So, but you saw the C4C getting more seats in parliament than the NGC. So we are not trying to outsmart anybody. The only thing that we are saying is using this constitution to go into elections. If the circumstance had not availed itself for NEC not to be able to delimit constituencies, hey, they would have delimited constituencies, and SLPP would have had no option but to go by the newly delimited constituencies, which, as he rightly said, would only have come into effect when Parliament would have approved it and the lifetime of this Parliament had ended. That one I agree. If you delimit constituencies now, as per this constitution, those new constituencies will only become constituencies viable to return a member of Parliament back to Parliament after the lifetime of this Parliament has dissolved. What has happened gladly, which is the line that I'm always trying to get my colleague understand, is the fact that, yes, constituency 003 still remains constituency 003. But the purpose for the purposes of the 2023 election, it does not remain a constituency to return me again to Parliament. Because census had been held, and as a result of that census that has been so held, there is need for those constituencies to be re-established to reflect the population quota of the population of Sierra Leone. So as a result of that, I cannot be returned again. If they return me again as it is by that figure, there's a possibility there are people in my constituency that will be disenfranchised. There is a possibility the geographical area of because when they are doing census, they take into account communities, geographical area, tribe, and the like, when they are delimiting. And like he rightly said, to delimit constituency does not take 1 or 2 months. You have to use cartographers who have to show the upper, lower, middle, and upper limit of and population. You have to go to the ground, re-establish boundaries. You have to go to the district for district consultation.
So cognizance of the time, is it not why the commission pegged that for 2024? So why did you kick against it as a political party, thinking that, oh wait, we're going to bring census? Because I think we need to reorganize our house and see what that would bring for us in the 2023 general elections.
They had said to you, 2024. There was a condition precedent. The condition precedent was, if there is a midterm census and there is a new data that will warrant the delimitation of boundaries, then we will have to delimit boundaries before 2024.
Let me just...
And true to it, there has been a midterm census. New census figures, now exist. They don't have any option but to delimit constituencies just so that they don't disenfranchise the increase in population that has been shown in the new census figures.
Let me just correct that. Yeah? The 2021 census was not new in the plan. It was part of the plan. There was 2021 midterm census in the strategic planning of NEC, ECSN. And there was delimitation for 2024.
So even with the knowledge of the census.
So, okay. Let me handle that one. You are responding to me. So assuming the population, NEC is dealing with population quota in a bid not to disenfranchise. So the figure has shown a tremendous increase from 53 to 57. That is a difference of 4,000 per constituency times 136. You can imagine how many thousands of people, of Sierra Leoneans, will be disenfranchised. So if that figure has come out and they now deem it necessary that for democracy to thrive, there is every need to delimit boundaries just so that these people are represented. What is so bad as per this constitution?
My elder brother is not seeing where I'm seeing. Let me just make this
quickly. Yes, go ahead. It's a conversation. Quickly.
Where I am seeing, I am my focal lens is pointing. Is that because NEC ECSN knew that there was going to be a midterm census 2021, and they said delimitation is 2024. It was because they knew that the existing boundaries, the existing constituencies would be valid till 2024. Why do they want to change it now, for Christ's sake?
So William, let me allow you quickly respond to that. To the fact that you knew you had your plan, that, okay, the 2021 National Housing and Population Census is ongoing, and whatever comes out, we'll have to play with it, because as per law, we have to go with what the new, figures would say. But also, you had pegged the boundary delimitation for 2024. So what brought about the change?
Well, it's clear in our strategic plan. At the time we published the strategic plan, it was the year 2020. And by then, there was no midterm census. It was only an announcement by the government that there will be a midterm census. Wait, allow me. We published in 2020. The government had announced that there is going to be a conduct of midterm census.
Right.
But as at the date of publication, there was no midterm census. What the data in terms of population of Sierra Leone that was still officially available was the 2015 census report. So if we are to go by that, it means, holding all other things constant, the population quota of each constituency
would have remained 53,000.
will have remained the same. So, if it's the same, then it means this existing constituency would have kind of complied with subsection 3 of 38. That means they reflect the population quota per constituency. So again, let's bear in mind that it was still possible that no midterm census would have been held. So that was why we pegged 2024.
What was the specific provision in the plan for the 2021 midterm census?
No, we came out with an electoral calendar. We pegged the review of boundaries for constituencies and wards for 2024, but with some underlying notes that some externalities or conditions they exist at the time we were publishing our strategic plan. We were aware of this condition. So we articulated
provision for that in the plan.
Yes, to say that in the event the midterm census is done and the result of the midterm census kind of is materially different in terms of having population distribution shifts, which may possibly affect the population quota per constituency, then it will affect the timing for the review of the boundaries of constituencies.
Right.
It's quite clear in our plan.
So Reverend, where does this put, a credible, fair and transparent elections come 2023, this pandemonium, this feud, this rancor within the electoral corridors of Sierra Leone at the moment?
That is where we are worried, because we have followed elections not only in this country, but in the world at large. And when we see this trend, we begin to fear whether the authority of the people is going to hold in determining who should be their leaders.
How?
You are seeing the debates that's going on now, just like in the courtroom. Each is trying to confuse the other. I would have loved the commission to actually stay aside from these things. But it seems the commission is consciously involving themselves.
Stay aside in what sense?
Stay aside. They follow their own processes. The executive secretary has just told you that as per their strategic plan, the boundary delimitation was set for 2024.
Yes.
And they would not have done that if they knew anything can come to disturb that particular fact. If there were any legal provisions that would have rendered the existing constituencies null and void, they would not have set 2024 for boundary delimitation. Because it is very clear. Not less than 5 years, not more than 7 years.
The commission just submitted that.
Can I please make my point?
When we publish,
This is where they are getting themselves meddled into the argument.
How?
So let me just make
Right.
my point. If the commission had stayed by their own calendar, there was going to be no argument about boundary delimitation because we already had constituencies existing. We are the only observer organization that recommended that there was an anomaly in the law talking about boundary delimitation 5 years minimum and 7 years maximum when censuses are taking place after every 10 years. And wanted that to be synchronized. Nobody touched that in all the legal amendments. Let me point few facts and then try to come back to what this discussion was actually called for.
just before you go to those facts, forgive me, just before you go to those facts. So the commission submitted that this is our plan, but in case things change, it will also affect our plan. Because Abdul just submitted that there was a pronouncement for a midterm census, and them following that is based on law. So for example, 38A say the president would direct you, and if the law says the president has to direct you, would you say, oh, Mr. President, I'm not going to go by that?
I have told you that the directive from the president came about from an advice from the commission. This was said by the chief electoral commissioner himself. So that's why I am saying the commission should make the conscious effort not to bring itself into this, can I say, hula baloo?
So the PI is an initiative of the commission, that's what you're saying.
Let me come.
Just for the purpose
No,
of...
don't feed me with ideas,
Go ahead.
please.
Sorry, sir.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
The issues that I want to draw our attention to are these. Everything is now pointing at census. Census is actually not a political tool. Census is meant mainly for development purposes.
Right.
But you've realized that the essence of census has now been derailed. The president, in his pronouncement for the midterm census, was very clear. He said he does not believe that the current data, population data we have is correct. And development plans on faulty data cannot help the government.
Right.
And so he needed a midterm census so he could get accurate data that will inform his development plans. The census came, and even up to this point, even Statistics Sierra Leone is confirming that that data is not correct because they are giving the excuses that some people refuse to be counted. And so if some people refuse to be counted, you are saying the data you are carrying is not correct.
So you're saying...
And this is the data that has now become the key in all discussions.
So what are you saying?
For our
The
political
2021 census data is faulty, just like what they propose in
let me please.
I just want to understand.
If you give me the time, I will not waste your time.
That's the thing we
the
don't have to talk about.
The sequence with which I want to give you this presentation
Go ahead.
will answer some of the questions you are interjecting.
Go ahead.
Fine. So that tells you that NEC would have just stayed with the current constituencies. There is nothing in law that makes the current constituencies illegal.
Go ahead.
And we would have this be very, very safe. Like I said, now they are saying the data for boundary delimitation is the most recent census data. But the executive secretary can tell you that that is not the only requirement. There is the further requirement or, in fact, it says or, any other data in the opinion of the commission deemed as representing the population of the country. It stated the census data and said any other data which in the opinion of the commission is most representative of the population in the country. NCRA has done some registration, and NCRA registration is even more reliable because there is a face to the name, there are biofeatures to the name, and everything. And they are like census. They count everybody. They are not counting special categories of people. So that said,
But who generates voter register?
it's the it's the Electoral Commission Sierra Leone.
So,
And that's the other thing about the census.
yes.
That's in fact the other thing about the census. After the first phase, the Electoral Commission Sierra Leone gave us data on the people who have registered. And it will interest you how that data undermined the credence of the population census. Those figures for Western area who have registered, just first phase, defeated the credence of the census. That's why I don't even want to start talking about that census. You know, professionals are creating problems for the growth and development of this country. Whatever purpose, I don't know. Professionals should learn to leave politics to politicians and do diligence in the appointments that are given them to guide this country. You see, coming to the discussion itself, so that we are not swayed away. Now they are saying we are going to do the PR. So let us forget about the boundary delimitation. Let us come to the PR. Now that is the PR. When it was boundary delimitation, we are talking about the population quota, where you divide the total population by the number of seats in parliament. Which data is the Electoral Commission going to use to determine this? That is one.
Is it not the 2021 data like Abdul
We
mentioned?
have the ECSL here. That's why I'm throwing.
Submitted earlier.
Yeah, I'm throwing the questions. Which data is the commission? When we raised that at the press conference, the chairman of the Electoral Commission said that will be one of the issues to be discussed with other stakeholders.
What data to go with?
Yes, he said that. And I am not aware of any consultation with stakeholders yet. So if the executive secretary is coming with a position on that, then National Election Watch was not invited to that consultative decision-making process. Fine. So that apart, in the PR system, you have to get a percentage of votes to qualify you for a seat that they refer to as threshold.
In terms of the details, the threshold, and there are concerns about independent candidates, I would come to Abdul on that quickly just before you come in on that. I don't
Okay, then I can skip them if you don't want them.
No,
if you don't want me to factor them
we will discuss them.
in this discussion.
These are concerns that I've also raised with Abdul in our previous conversation.
The reason why I am drawing this,
yes,
the executive secretary tried to correct me that the president had no advantage in giving directives for the PR system. Right. That's not correct. The president is not running for that seat as an independent candidate. The president is running on the ticket of a political party that would want to win the presidency and win the majority in parliament. So all the debates, all the arguments are directed
Which
exactly. Which party gets the presidency and which party controls majority in parliament. So don't lose sight of these two things.
Okay. Yes, Honorable, I see you want to come in.
Samuel, I am going to be very frank and emphatic on this.
About what?
I see Reverend be more partisan than being part of a civil society organization that should hold the scale untilted. And I'm one person who believes, it's not an attack on Reverend. I'm one person who believes that these civil society organizations...
Reverend is holding a view of a civil society organization.
Yes.
And he's not been invited here to represent any political party.
Let me land.
I can defend myself.
We appoint people as members of civil society organization.
Yeah.
Nobody appointed us.
When they should not
Nobody appointed us to be members of civil society.
Beneficiaries of a political institution. Reverend here was a commissioner of the Human Rights Commission. Okay? I mean, we are.
This is news to me. I never knew I had been commissioner of Human Rights Commission.
I've been mistaken for
This is news to me.
I've been mistaken for Reverend Justice.
No, this is news to me. I never knew I was commissioner of Human Rights.
Apologies.
Go ahead.
No, if it were, I would have justified it. Apologies for that.
Go ahead.
Now, I see his argument tilted on a partisan basis. That's what I see.
How so?
How so? If you are saying the president who is running on his own ticket for presidency, and presidency is not going to be based on PR system. Presidency, like the executive secretary has said, is going to be based on first past the post system. To tell me that the president is going to be in an advantageous position simply because...
Will members of parliament under the PR system be voted for by the people?
The
members of parliament, would they be voted for directly by the people?
They are going to be voted for.
How would the PR work?
They are going to be voted.
Are you not going to vote for the president, vote for your party, and the party makes a decision who goes to parliament?
But that's where the beauty lay. List is going to be presented
by the party.
By the party, and it is those people on the list. If the people vote, it is those people of the party who are going to go back to parliament in a hierarchical manner.
By the party. So, so Samuel will not go to the polls and vote for Honorable Gavao directly. I'll then go and vote for President Bill, who is the leader of the SLPP, and that vote will then be calculated to still who has the majority.
Samuel, Honorable wanted to react to my, and you took my time away from me.
You have your time.
Please.
We're having a conversation.
Please. You are not going to see the son seated in the chairs. Not so. The son is going to be on that ballot paper, just as the palm tree and the umbrella. You are not going to see palm trees. It is the individuals whose names are going to be on the list, who will be voted for.
Samuel, some of us are
that will be returned as members of parliament.
Samuel.
Yes, Reverend, I'm with you. Let's just have a conversation. Yes.
You give undue advantage to the politicians when we are on this forum.
I'll give you time.
Okay, all right.
I'll give you time.
Okay. Some of us have deliberately refused to go into the merit and the merit of the PI system because we know it is not legal. Yeah. Again, I am restating here that NEC knew that these constituencies are valid till 2024. That was why even when they had midterm census for 2021, they still suggested that the limitation should be 2024. So there is nothing that will render this constituency null and void before this stipulated.
Okay.
And for PR to be announced, there has to a situation in which constituencies are not established. But in our case, constituencies were established and these constituencies are in effect and they are valid up to 2024. And let me tell you what they are misunderstanding.
And so what, just quickly, so if those constituencies are valid only until 2024, what happens if people would have been voted into parliament? using that.
No.
I mean, looking at the legality of the constituencies.
Let me say this again. To alter constituencies is not a must. Yeah? They may, and once they are valid, once the electoral system passes and new parliament comes into effect, that parliament has a lifespan of 5 years before it is dissolved. And you cannot alter that parliament until it dissolves after the 5 years.
Okay.
And to do alteration is not a must. It's not a must. You must be able, let me tell you the problem. The problem is they wanted to alter the current constituency. And
Who are they?
The SLPP.
But SLPP is not running the elections.
No, SLPP, their opinion is what is happening now, because
Okay.
I have told you unequivocally that I have sat in a meeting with Reverend and representative from SLPP, and they insisted that they wanted delimitation for, instead of 2024, they wanted it 2022.
Okay.
That was
Samuel.
why NEC had to change their
Samuel,
plan.
I want you to do the public a favor. I want you to read section 38A for the public, please.
I have it here. Don't worry.
Okay, fine.
I have it here.
Because I want
I will come to that. Let's allow everyone to go on.
Oh yes, because that is what shows that constituencies have not been established.
They are.
The constant reference to me by this honorable will be convincing the public that I am also a politician. I am not public. I am not. They are only making reference to me because I do attend meetings that they attend. And whatever meeting I attend, SLPP will be there, APC will be there, NGC will be there, C4C will be there. They are all there. And we have learned to be calling things by their names. And because we have learned to be calling things by their names, when positions change, we are labeled. We are labeled to different political parties.
Right.
When the issues remain the same, they don't change, and we stay with the issues. It is the music chairs. So when it changes, those who are on that side now will look at us now in relation to the issues that we are this party, like Honorable Gavao was just saying. You see, Samuel, they feel sorry for them small political party, then where they go and jubilate that in fact the PR system has come. Now they are going to go into parliament. One particular political party during that press conference said, next election I am going to be member of parliament. And I tried to figure what percentage they scored. It was 0.00 something. You are not going to that parliament. Because
But
the last PR system
threshold has not been set.
no, it has not yet. And I know they are not going to set a threshold that is 0.00. And I know that.
What if not threshold?
And secondly, well, then it's not PR, because you have to get a threshold. That's a condition.
Go ahead.
And then also, for those who are in parliament, the current members of parliament, and are not in the good book of their political party executives, they let them be singing and dancing. Because this is the time the political party is going to tell them that we have the power. Because they are going to present the list. The chairman and the secretary. They are going to present the list to the Electoral Commission. And so if you are not in the good books of the hierarchy of the political party, your opportunity was your constituency. Now your constituency has been kept quiet with the PR. They have no role to play any longer. It is the hierarchy of the political party that is going to present the party list to the Electoral Commission. And so you are the parliament, they make mots, where you are the chairman, and then see eye to eye. Begin go bigger. Otherwise, yes. Yes. Because they are not going to be calling everybody in parliament, yeah, come and give us your view. It is the chairman and the secretary of the political party that will be presenting the list to the Electoral Commission.
As you say that, Reverend, earlier on you wanted to talk about the threshold, and I stopped you because Abdul needs to tell us. Reverend is talking about a threshold for political parties to be represented in Parliament. The last time we had a conversation is that, I mean, there are still talks going on. So what's the status?
Let me just make a small point there before you go to him. By the population quota, the Electoral Commission would have divided the 132 seats per district. Now, when you go to the district, how will a political party win that seat? One of that seat. That is what I am telling you. That is where the threshold is coming in. You have to win a percentage of the votes cast in that election. Otherwise, you are not going to get a seat.
Okay, so let's allow Abdul to answer the question.
Well, as I explained in the last session here at the OIB, we are now working on the system because Section 33 of the Constitution gives the Electoral Commission the mandate to make regulations through statutory instruments for the conduct of presidential, parliamentary, and local council elections. So I will touch on 2 points. The first point will relate to that of allocating seats to districts if it's under the PR system, because Reverend mentioned that it's one of the questions in the open letter of the new. The first thing I want to explain is that it's clear in Section 38A that it is by or under an act of Parliament when it comes to the allocation of seats to districts, because under the PR will no longer talk about the constituencies. Right. So clearly it is not a mandate given to the Electoral Commission, but because we are referencing Section 33 that we can make regulations, we are now working with the Office of the Attorney General to draft provisions or regulations to support the parents' law under Section 38A. So I cannot profile the details or the basis of allocated seats to districts at this particular point in time. I'm sure shortly, within maybe by next week, it's something that will now be in Parliament. I mean, it will become an open discourse. Yes, but Section 38A does not go into any details. It's just saying it's by an act or under an act. So actually, it's the responsibility of Parliament. We can draft anything and send it to Parliament, but it's the Parliament that should determine the basis for allocating seats to districts. Yes.
The last district block system we had was 8 seats per district.
Yes, it was through an act of Parliament again. They agreed, because by then, was it in 2002, yes, the parliamentary elections, there was no census data, so we could not delimit boundaries, so they had to just do some even allocation across all districts. Yeah. For the other aspects, it's not spelled out in the law.
The threshold.
The threshold. If you read 38A, there is nothing that is specifying a threshold. So there are different schools of thought. One which is even saying that, should we even use a threshold? I mean, if you don't use a threshold, then it means as long as you can get up to like 1% of the vote, then you can have like a seat. Yes, but if you have a system of minimum threshold, I think the last time I had it was about 12.5%. They divided the 100% by the 8. Yes, 8 seats. Yeah, because the number of seats was even across districts, so it was like 12.5%. So the downside to that is parties may get 5% of share of the vote, 10%, and still not get a seat. That's the concern of the new, that still there's this non-inclusive aspects or elements with the minimum threshold thing. It's not stated in the law of 38A of the Constitution, so it has to be regulated. And regulations for the conduct of these elections, they fall under the mandate of the ECSL, and we're also working on that. So simultaneously, all these things within the next few days will soon.
How about the issue of having independent members of parliament elected under under the district block representation system?
Yes, it's another debate that's ongoing, but it's clear under Section 38A that under the district block representation system, the election for parliament shall be conducted by political parties, and they have to submit lists. So other schools of thought are now saying that we are now disenfranchising people who may not want to go through political parties. They want to contest independently. But we have to, as a commission, we have to stick to the law. There may be a push towards an amendment. Do we really have the time and the like? But there is an active discourse ongoing concerning these concerns.
Independent candidates. Just quickly before I bring in our viewers, Honorable Abdul Kargbo, you wanted to make a submission when William was making his submission.
Yes. Again, the system has no basis to be implemented now, and I have shown where. You know, when they say constituencies have been established, it is not compulsory that you have to do alteration for every election. These constituencies we have now, they were established in 2017 and they took effect in 2018. So there are constituencies that have been established. So coming by quoting 38A does not make any difference, because at the time the date for the elections was appointed, constituencies were established. Because these constituencies that we are using now, that are currently...
The establishment of those constituencies for the purpose of the 2023 elections?
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to establish constituency for every election. I will challenge anybody again on this.
Let's quickly add on.
These constituencies were established in 2018, and they are valid. Nothing as... You can only establish constituencies when the current one have been dissolved or when they are not valid.
Okay.
They are valid.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, let me clarify this issue or respond, because Honorable has been repeatedly making this assertion. The Commission has not declared that the existing constituencies are null and void. The existing constituencies demarcated since 2017, they are valid right through the lifespan of the tenure of the existing parliament.
Thank you.
Yes, they are quite valid. But if a review is done, a review of the boundaries, and it is approved, then it means that the approval will take effect on the dissolution of parliament. Then it means, again, that the existing constituencies will be replaced at the dissolution of the existing. So we are not saying that the existing constituencies are null and void. The question is, we are in a situation wherein a date has been appointed for the conduct of the next parliamentary election. That's the context. So the next question is, which boundaries, constituency boundaries, should we use to conduct the next the 2023 parliament? Allow me to land, please. So the mandate for the boundaries that we should use, it is coming from subsection 3 of section 38. It is quite clear, subsection 3 of section 38, it says that the boundaries for constituencies shall be such that the number of inhabitants is as nearly equal to the population quota as it is reasonably practical. So that's the yardstick for determining boundaries for constituencies. Okay. And then quickly, let me go to the point he was also making, the use of that it's optional for the ECSL. It's up to our discretion to alter boundaries. It's not up to the discretion of the Electoral Commission to alter boundaries. When we review the boundaries of constituencies within the intervals of not less than 5 years and not more than 7 years, the Commission may alter The may there does not indicate our discretion. It is quite possible that after you review your boundaries, the existing boundaries, the population quota may not be affected. It may not change. So in such an instance, you can review and see it's about the same thing. We don't need to alter. So what will indicate alteration on the part of the Commission is when there is a change in the population quota. As long as there is a change in the population quota, then it means that when you are redrawing the boundaries should be redrawn differently. So in that case, it is the population, the change in the population quota that will create the alteration. Is not the discretion of the Electoral Commission. So it's not an issue of you can review but not necessarily alter. Now we have the information that the population quota has changed. So without going into all the complex calculation, then the boundaries should be altered.
And quickly, we have about 15 minutes to round off this conversation.
He was referring to me directly. Let me just correct something here.
I'll give you a minute, Honorable.
I am saying that there is no law that nullifies the existing boundaries, the existing constituencies. Yeah? For PR to be announced or for PR to be implemented, the date has to be appointed, and at that time, constituencies are not established.
Okay.
These constituencies were established in 2018, and they are valid up till now.
Gentlemen, let me run through a few messages quickly. Amar Alpha is saying, why is the issue of the PR system should be a thing of the past? Because it is not new to this country, and it has been announced by the Commissioner of ECSL, and it is going ahead as scheduled. And we, the meaningful Sierra Leoneans, are ready and prepared to fully appreciate that in the upcoming 2023 general elections. Lamin Denke is saying we still don't have a Moses to critically and logically amend our 1991 constitution. Okay. So many messages. Unfortunately, time would only permit me to take very few. Bashir David Nika is saying, with the citizens of this country, we need free and fair elections come 2023. The PR system only works in this country in terms of war. But the commissioner should have done the boundary delimitation since August, but failed to do so. Now he wants to bring the PR system, which is impossible. Please, ECSL announce the results of the registration exercise. Dominic Bangura is saying, incompetence is so much in, it is sad holding offices like this. Okay, that's not too clear. The main intention for the PR system adopted by the late President Kargbo was for the reason that we're just coming from the war and there was not enough constituencies. This is bad. Should we not use the PR system? The Judas is saying that. Loxen Gauja is saying, from Bo, I am impressed with Reverend statement for the President to take decision without due consultation with other candidates. Okay, the ECSL Commission, headed by Kone, fails to undertake one of its paramount duties, which is the boundary delimitations. Thus, he has already shown incompetence for such a sacred office. We will resist any intention of manipulation. Alimami Thawonka is saying, okay, Opai, I've asked that question already. When they say 53,000 people, you have to think of those who are not up to 18 years, non-citizens, and the number of voters. Abdul had clarified that. Samuel, a very winded explanation from ECSL that makes no sense. Fact, it's not the ECSL that advised the president to proclaim the PR system for 2023. Rather, the SLPP government directed the state-controlled ECSL to propose the PR system because they think it's going to be their get-out-of-jail card to win the 2023 elections. Kandetsue is saying that. I'm going to take 3 more messages. If the judiciary is independent and credible, then this time would have been necessary to put it to test to save Sierra Leone from bad politicians and civil servants. Lamin Denke, my respectable Honorable Abdul Kargbo, continue to educate those. Okay, there are strong words. Unfortunately, I cannot continue. Samuel, please ask for me, Honorable Abdul Kargbo, when the current parliament. Okay. That's not too clear. Good on you, Honorable Abdul Kargbo, but wait until the other lawyer starts. Okay. the politics here, they are also, this is why I said Honorable Indulo Gavao should school, okay? I'm skipping all those complimentary messages. I think I have to hold the messages there. So many of them, hundreds of them. Unfortunately, time will not permit me to go through all of them. and they're too political for me to just run through. So as we round off the conversation, gentlemen, what path should we take now? Reverend, I'll start off with you.
That's a very important question at this conversation. Whatever system we will be taking to the 2023 election, I want to request the Electoral Commission Sierra Leone to open up and be inclusive in decision making around the issues surrounding the system that we are going to engage in. Because different political parties are going to be players in that system. They must be well educated. You cannot just push decisions on them. Consult, open up, make yourself such that nobody feels somebody else is controlling you. Because even what is happening now may not have happened if the ECSL had called a consultative meeting and discussed with them about their challenges with the boundary delimitation, so that together they come up with which way to move forward. There would not have been this hue and cry. So I am advising the ECSL to open up.
Okay. Honorable Gavao.
Yes, Samuel. Like I said hitherto, the district block system had been announced to be the system of elections for members of parliament that will be going by come 2023. It is now established that it is what it is. And it is constitutional. It is not taken from vacuum. It is taken from our constitution. What I think we should be concentrating on now as Sierra Leonean is working in tandem with the commission to draw up the mechanism that they are going to use in implementing the district block system for the June 4th, 2023 elections. For me, like somebody said, all of this debate is like spilling water on duck's back. For us lawyers, once a judge has given a judgment, it becomes final, unless, especially like the Supreme Court. The Constitution has says the president can direct. The president has directed constitutionally.
The Supreme Court has the power to overturn its own decision, right?
Yes,
they can depart. Can still
they can depart. The president has directed as prescribed in the Constitution. For me, as a Sierra Leonean, I don't see any way this is going to change. It is not established fact that we are going by the district block system, which is one of the means of proportional representation system for the June 4, 2023 election.
Okay.
Let us work with the Electoral Commission to make sure we go into election that is peaceful, credible, and free of violence.
Honorable Abdul, Kargbo, quickly, what path should we take?
Again, the circumstances under which the PX system was to be introduced should be when there are no constituencies have not been established, and the date has been appointed. I am insistently, emphatically, consistently stating here that we have constituencies that have been established. These constituencies were established in 2018, and they are valid. Because they are valid, there is not the circumstances, for PR system to hold. And quite apart from that, I have heard so many people said there was gerrymandering. That was why even with 20 seats different, the number of vote difference was not enough. Then you have to ask yourself that in the total number of votes of NGC, just as he stated, NGC had number of votes than C4C, but C4C has 8 seats and NGC can only account for 4 seats. So you cannot, commonsensically, you cannot just ascribe the number of seats to the number of votes in a first past the post. You can even lead a political party by 20 seats and you lead that political party by 20 votes in the circumstances where you defeat the political party by 1 vote by each of the constituencies.
Okay.
So I want to also state that in the PR system, you take the right from the ordinary Sierra Leoneans. They don't choose their MPs. They don't vote their MPs. In most cases, they don't even know their MPs. I could remember as a small boy in Port Loko, when our MPs were representing us in Kargbo, we don't even see them. We don't know their faces. They don't come to us.
William,
this is where we're going back.
As you give us your parting shot, the question I want to ask: if after all these concerns being raised by the different players raising or opponents of the PR system, and the president decides that, okay, I think I've listened. Let's go by first past the post. Does the commission have the time to go with first past the post with the dates already appointed?
It's about the legal framework. It's not really about the time. The time was relevant in the aspect of not enough time to complete the boundary delimitation. Right. So it's quite clear that we have been working consistently within the legal framework. So basically there are two systems, electoral systems, for the conduct of parliamentary election. The primary system is the constituency system, single member constituency system. If you read section 38, it's quite clear, but there's an alternative system. So the question that we are trying to answer and explain to the public is that the intention was for us to use the primary system, which is to the constituency system, but that will require delimiting new constituency boundaries, which we do not have enough time to do, and we will run out of time and we will not be able to conduct the June presidential parliamentary elections as stated. Okay. So the other option or the other alternative is for us to consider Section 38A. But the critical thing we want to explain, and I will always clarify, is that Section 38A is not citing an instance where constituencies do not exist. That's not what Section 38A is saying. Section 38A is saying that where constituencies have not been established in accordance with subsection 3 of Section 38. So they hardly go back to that subsection 3 of Section 38. It is not saying where constituencies have not established, then the president may direct a PR system. Okay. Constituencies can be in existence. We agree constituencies have been established, but the question is, have they been established in accordance with subsection 3 of 38? So that's the conclusion that we came out with, that these existing constituencies, they don't comply at the moment with subsection 3 of section 38. Now the population quota is 57,000. Then it was 53,000. We cannot go into the next parliamentary election with these constituencies. They have to be reviewed, but we don't have enough time to review them before the elections. So the alternative is to advise that we go with the secondary option as stated in Section 38A, and that was what
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much, William Abdul Davis, Executive Secretary, Electoral Commission. Thank you very much, Honorable Abdul Kargbo, All People's Congress Party. Thank you very much, Honorable Gavao from the Sierra Leone People's Party, and Reverend James Lahai, National Coordinator from the National Elections Watch. You see, not from a political party. But thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you. Thank you.
They cannot amend Section 38A by just statutory instruments.
Okay.
It has to be
we do not have time. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And to those of you who watch us on Channel 5, we are not going to amend it. FM 101.7 and follow us on all our different social media platforms. You're welcome. And we will say we thank you. We've enjoyed the privilege of your time this evening. If you miss a part of this, please ensure that you tune in again on Thursday, 10 p.m. for a repeat of the show. But Fresh Edition comes up on Sunday, same time, same station. We are your home of all things credible, factual, and all times balanced. The show has been AYV on Sunday. My name is Samuel Wise Bangura, and up next is our AYV Primetime News. Until then, take care of yourself and have a lovely night.